Ebanu GDM is and someone so a Christopher, Muslim for any other religious beliefs, you know. How do they feel about the conversation that is going on in the public space? Reverend Dr. Cyril Fayosi Anape, I am a guest, or General Secretary Emma, the Christian Council, Menino AD and Komo Anape. Reverend, good morning.
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners and viewers.
All right. So you've been following the conversation. Let me pick your initial reaction to the entire conversation about LGBTQ+ and the reaction of Ghanaians for and against. What's your reaction as a Christian Council?
As a Christian, it is against our basic faith beliefs. We don't believe that God made man and man. We believe that God made male and female, and that they should multiply and fill the earth. That is the biblical injunction. So as a Christian, the gay position is completely opposite mine. And from a traditional Ghanaian cultural values and norms, we don't believe that male and male should be together. So again, as a Ghanaian, as an African, that is against my basic values. And I believe that is the case for most Ghanaians. There are a few people who are raising issues with it, mainly with influences from outside. So, but they have a right to their opinion. So that will be my initial reaction.
It's interesting the functional word you use in your initial submission, which has to do with belief and faith.
Yeah.
It is you who has that belief system and you who has that faith, that it is against your religious belief. But somebody may also have a religion that he feels allows him to have a taste for a man or to have a taste for a woman, though that person may be same gender. Should we be discriminating against them if it's based on a matter of belief and faith?
People can have divergent beliefs from mine, but I did not really talk about belief. I also talked about our cultural values and norms. And maybe the third point can even be the fact that it is not natural. Just by observing nature, just by observing the fact that God or the Creator himself or herself created us not as one sex, as male and female. All those are pointers. So it is just not belief that I'm counting on here. It is also our values as Africans, as Ghanaians, and also the fact that if you just observe nature, you get the impression that certain parts of the body are made for a purpose. The anus, for instance, is for excretion. It is not for sex. That is the fact of the matter.
Can't also someone
that is
make
nature.
the case that the female, organ, the sexual organ, the vagina, let me put it that way, is also made for excretion. That's where the urine passes. Or if you make a case about that for the anal, whatever.
The penis is also made for excreting urine, but it's also a sex organ. At least we can say that it has got a dual function. We can't say that about the anus, for instance.
Now, the point about culture and some arguments that I have heard is that if we are able to uphold certain cultural beliefs and accept them, and that based upon that, you say that even our culture does not accept that, there are other cultures that as we speak now, we are fighting against. Trocosi and co that we are trying to get out of the system. But these are people's beliefs that at the moment we are fighting. So wherein lies the consistency if you talk about culture?
No, culture is not sacrosanct. Culture is evolving. And as we move along, things change.
So we are evolving.
We question our way of life.
So we are evolving.
And then we end up with the best practice. So we are not saying that we should do things just because they are the things our forefathers had done culturally. No. We look at it, we critique it, and then we come out with the best that we can have from that situation. That's what we are doing. So we are not just saying that culture should be accepted hook, line, and sinker. No, we are not saying that. So we critique our culture, and I agree some cultures, some cultural practices are not right.
But who determines that this is not right and this is right?
It is the whole of society. It's all of us, you and I.
Indeed.
Yes, we look at it. We look at it carefully.
So then, if you look,
that one time slavery was accepted worldwide, throughout the world, even in religion. Even St. Paul asked the slaves to be obedient to their masters. But as we go along, we have questioned it, and we've realized that there are certain problems with that cultural practice. It's a cultural practice, and we have moved beyond it. But that doesn't mean that all cultural practices are in effect wrong. We should not make the point that everything should be changed just because culture is not sacrosanct. It can be critiqued and challenged and improved upon. So, for me, that is the position. We continue to.
So that's how dynamic society can be.
Exactly.
And that's how important evolution is when it comes to communities and societies. So, for instance, over the years, we frowned on gay activities and all. And the society is evolving for a certain group of people who have developed a certain taste for their sexual preferences or whatever we may discuss. I know the medical part will come in along the way as we're having a conversation. But society is evolving, as you say. And so in the process of evolution, some people have seen that, look, all this time that we have been told that the anus, for instance, is for excretion, it could also give pleasure. And so they decide to go that path. Does the evolution not apply there as well? If you say society is dynamic.
It is a push and pull effect. That is how culture evolves, values evolve. So there should be some tension between those who believe that we should go a certain direction and those who maintain the old position. Those who are saying that we should move on and those who maintain the old. That push and pull effect is there. And we must interrogate the issue. So we must just not sit down and say, because some people think that you can derive pleasure from the anus, it's okay for all of us to go that direction. No, some of us do not think that the anus is designed for pleasure. It's designed for excretion. So the debate continues. But there is a higher form of debate, that it is not just that the biblical injunction, and it's also, as much as I can think, natural, that God created us male and female. It's a fact that God created us male and female, even though there are some people who are both sexes. It's an accident of nature. Even though God created us male and female, the reason, the purpose of that is for us to maintain the species. The reproduction is one of the reasons why we were designed that way by whoever designed us. Are you following my point?
I'm following you.
So by arguing that we should move away from the natural way of doing it, or the way it's designed to be done, to this new cultural understanding that you are preferring, beats the original purpose. If we should all go that direction, it means eventually our species will become extinct. And that is one of the problems that we have as a society, that we have to protect the species, we have to protect life, and those do not protect and support life as it is.
It's interesting, in all this, we haven't mentioned technology in our conversation. Because in the past, we knew that our mothers would give birth using the push system, the natural push. Today, there's cesarean. Today, a man and a woman may not necessarily have intercourse, but the woman can take seed as a result of science. We accept all those things. But that's not the natural way God created us to procreate. Not so. Why do we accept that then?
We accept them because they are good.
They're good.
Yes.
For who?
They are for all of us.
For all of us.
For the person who is going through the in vitro fertilization, the person who is going through the C-section and so on. It's helping them survive otherwise a terrible and difficult labor and situation. So it's good. It is, I can say in short, it is pro-life. It is progressive.
Is it all about pro-life? Because if it's all about procreation and progression, then the maker of humanity allows for people to be born and they can't give birth. If it's all about procreation. There are barren folks in the world. There are sterile men in the world.
That is.
If indeed a man and a woman were created for that purpose, then would you have situations where people are barren and some men are sterile? If indeed it's for procreation. Or?
You know we are not perfect.
But God is a perfect God.
God is a perfect God.
Yes.
And God created us for particular purposes. But as individuals, we have our weaknesses and shortcomings and ailments. Our genetical composition is not perfect. So you can have a man whose sperm is not working, for instance. So he cannot do what he's expected to do. It is not the fault of the man. It is not the fault of God. But that is how he came out. I don't know if you follow what I'm saying.
I'm trying to.
So
because if the purpose of the higher being, God for that matter, was for that man who has a baby, was supposed to help in the process of procreation, for that woman to have a womb for procreation, and yet she's giving birth to, and she can't procreate, then it defeats the whole argument about procreation, does it not?
It does not, because I'm saying those are accidents of nature. Those are the exceptions. They are not the rule. The majority of us are able to give birth. So
then it will be allowable to also say that there are exceptions to tastes, as in preferences for intercourse. That majority of us may decide that we want to have sex with women. But a few may decide that they want to have sex with a woman when they are a woman, or with a man when they are men.
It's a preference.
It's a preference.
And you can do that.
You can do that.
So
why are we fighting them?
The problem is, if we don't fight them or we don't do anything about it, it can gradually become accepted and become the norm. Your preference should not become my preference. What you decide to do, good or bad, you should not force me, should not be imposed upon me or upon the rest of society.
But nobody is. Is anybody forcing LGBTQ plus on people?
People are actively doing that. I heard that recently the American embassy put an advert in the papers asking for an employee who inviting applications for an advocate for them. That is, it's okay for you to have your belief and a certain lifestyle in the US. In Ghana, majority of us do not believe in that lifestyle, at least at this point. So why bring an advocate to come and advocate for that lifestyle?
So what's the countermeasure?
That is what we...
But the countermeasure is for you to also do your advocacy. and
exactly, that's what we are doing.
Yes, but
this is our advocacy.
Somebody would pose the question that if the pastor were to be doing his job right, if the imam were to be doing his job right, that boy, that girl, who has developed the taste for, let's say, another man or another woman, would not have gotten there because from the onset, it would have been imbibed in him or her that for purposes of procreation, this is what God stipulates. Pam. Man, woman. Woman, man. Yeah. Is it not a feeling of the religious folks or fellows that we have gotten here?
In spite of our best efforts, not everyone will actually follow the instructions and the dictates of our religions, whether Christian or Muslim or traditional. In spite of our best efforts, there will always, in fact, even those of us who are faithfuls of our religions, we have our shortcomings. We are not able to follow the prescriptions accordingly. So the reality is that we are human and we have human failings and weaknesses. But the question to the question itself, we have not failed. We have done our bit. But in today's world, people are actually exposed to all kinds of things. You talked about technology. As our children now spend very little time with the religious community. Let me put it that way. If they happen to be in school, maybe there'll be a prayer in the morning, a prayer in the evening, and that's about it. A prayer before meal, a prayer, things like that. And then once in a week, they'll have an opportunity. That is if they go to church every week. Be in church. Throughout the week, they are in school for 8 hours, sometimes for 12 hours a day. And if that school should send them a particular kind of message, which of them are they going to accept? That is why when the CSE thing came up, comprehensive sexuality education thing came up, and there was an agenda to kind of sneak some curriculum into it that tends to favor the gay agenda, it was vehemently opposed because it will expose our children to a certain set of information, and eventually, if you are exposed to information over and over and over again, you begin to believe it. And we don't want that to happen.
It's interesting that the Christian faith tells us that the Creator, as much as He wills all the power in the world, chose to give man his free will. So He gave you your free will.
Yeah.
Make your decisions. At the end of the day, He will judge you during the judgment day.
Yes.
Why do you then want to impose something on somebody who will be judged at the end of the day today?
No, we are not imposing anything on anyone. What we are saying is that this is our values. This is what we believe.
But he has the free will to make that choice.
Yes. So society, through its leaders, sets certain standards and values and norms. Okay? And we say this is what we believe in. We do our best to impact it upon the next generation. And like God, they are free to take it or leave it. Are you with me? So that is all that we are doing. But for us to make sure that they take what we believe in now, we advocate for it. We do everything to teach them that. And if we realize that someone is bringing something that we believe is contrary to what we believe, we do everything to oppose that position. I don't know if there's anything wrong with that.
Well, I'll use myself as an example. That, for instance, when I was going to secondary school, my mother called me and said, Kwame, there are a lot of bad habits in schools. There is this, there is smoking, there is drinking, there is this. Remember the things I've taught you and don't go astray. Now, she believed in me to allow me to be on my own for 3 years on campus. I came back a better man. If all of us were supposed to be doing our work, that one stray child who would have been the originator of the entire concept of LGBTQ+, he wouldn't have come out, would he? Or would she?
Oh, you are thinking it is a child that is coming up with this?
No, I'm talking about the first person.
Yes.
Okay, who went rogue in terms of breaking free from that circle of man to woman, woman to man. If society had done its work in terms of playing the role of imbibing these principles you talk about, be it for the Christian faith, be it for the Islamic faith, or even the traditional faith, we'd not be having this conversation, would we?
Well, you can say that, especially in the countries where this whole idea originated from. We may not be where we are. I will agree with that. So the whole point, what we are trying to do now is to make sure that no one falls through the crack. We imbibe what we believe now, just like your mother did. Your mother called you early in the morning and told you that this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. Your mother did not say that because you have been given free will, Kofi, you go out there and decide whether stealing is good or bad. This is good or bad. No, your mother gave you the standard. Said, this is the standard. This one is not good. Smoking is not good. Stealing is not good. Sleeping too much is not good. You have free will, but she gave you the standard. And because she gave you that standard, you came out a better man. If she had not given you that standard, you could have gone astray. So that is the point. That's what we are trying to do now. We are trying to maintain what we believe is the standard and pass it on to the next generation.
Is it impossible for this whole LGBTQ plus community move or uprising? Is it impossible for it to be in the plans of God, for it to happen now? Is it impossible?
Is it impossible?
Yes.
It's difficult to speak for God.
Yes, but there are biblical examples of things that God has allowed that we human beings consider as ills of society. And God, it was within the schemes of God for them to happen. Is it impossible for this LGBT thing to be in the plans of God for this generation? Is it impossible?
I think so. I think it's impossible.
You think it's impossible?
Yeah, I think that. Well, maybe I didn't understand your question well. Maybe you should put it again.
Okay, so is it possible? Let me rephrase something. Is it possible that God is in the know about the activities of these LGBT people, and that it is in his plans that the next 10 years he's going to use this uprising as an example for a generation that will come? Is it possible?
Well, if we make reference to the Sodom and Gomorrah incident, then we can say that it's possible. It's something that happened. If you can say God allowed it, it happens. God knew about it, and at some point, God sent messages to them that this is wrong. I don't want you to go this way, and eventually, God rained punishment on them for going down that route. So, and then also to send a message that this is what I like and this is what I don't like. Okay, so it can be that this is happening now to send a message. But let's also remember that we have been given free will. So sometimes what I would say, the will of God, what God wants, sometimes it's limited because of the free will he has given us. So human beings will still go astray, even though God wants them to be on this path. They will still go on a different path. So it is not necessarily that it is God's plan that this should happen, but it is happening. And God will try to teach us a lesson out of it. There will be a lesson in it for us.
All right. My understanding is that one of the LGBTQ plus advocates has been following the conversation, and he's joining us for a few comments about, the position that you have held on the conversation. Elikem Fiachi has joined us on the show. I believe his popular name is Craziness, if I got that right. Elikem, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you doing?
Well, I'm alive.
All right. Elikem, I asked the question, what drove you to become an activist for the LGBTQ plus community in Ghana?
Please, the question again.
I'm saying, what drove you to become an LGBTQ plus activist in this country?
Oh, yeah, sure. What drove me was the violence that I constantly experience and see fellow LGBTQ persons going through in this country without any justice. Even the lawmakers and even the securities that are supposed to be protecting the citizens end up abusing these people just because of the myths and the bad narratives that are created around the system.
Now, you talk about your personal experience. What's been your personal experience?
Well, like I mentioned, you are constantly being harassed by even the police, and even you are discriminated against by people that are even supposed to be protecting you or to be more understanding, including the Christian faith.
For doing what? For what purpose do they persecute you, if I may ask?
Okay, just because you are not conforming to what their faith or their beliefs are.
So is that to suggest that as I speak to you, you don't conform to these beliefs and you are practicing?
Well, I don't conform to Christian faith. First of all, I'm not even a Christian. I was a Christian and I'm no longer a Christian.
Okay.
I renounced Christianity more than 6 or 7 years ago. So I don't expect Christians to force me to conform to their norms and doctrine.
Are you gay, if I may ask?
I'm even beyond gay because being gay, I feel, is even more limiting just between two persons. So I'm beyond gay. I think I am human sexual in the sense that I feel for any human that if I'm attracted to a person, I'm attracted to a person. So that is why I call myself even a transverter. So I'm beyond gay.
When first did you have that desire to have an affair with a man?
Well, I just think that for me, I wouldn't be able to even tell at what point did I start feeling for someone.
Were you like that from onset, or it was at some point in time in your life that you decided to practice that?
I think just as maybe heterosexuals may be experiencing while they are growing and they are unsure about their sexuality and even feeling for people, I think it's the same for us as queer people. So for me, growing up, especially even as a Christian, I try to exercise some kind of chastity, and that prevented me from engaging in early sexual life. But I wouldn't deny the fact that I went through weird experiences with heterosexual thinkings, So liberating myself at an late age helped me to understand that, look, there was nothing really wrong with me, the things I feel. So this is why I said it's even difficult to even state a pinpoint that this was the time that I begin to feel for somebody or some. The same question goes to straight people. When do you begin to feel for women?
Now, let me ask this. Are you aware the laws of this country frown on man-to-man relationships, affairs?
Well, that is not true. The law of this country has never frowned upon a relationship between man and a man and a woman and a woman. If we are right and quoting the law, Article 29, Section 104, it says unnatural carnal knowledge. And of course, this is also a very Christian word. Knowledge in the Bible is just a reference to sexuality or sex as an euphemism. So they use this, they pick this again from the Bible, and this is going to the general congregation, unnatural. So it means that even if a man and a woman are having anal sex, it's actually criminalized. If a man and a woman are having any sex apart from vaginal penetration, it's criminalized. So even a blowjob, what we call oral sex, is criminalized. Masturbation and all other forms with sex toys and the rest are criminalized. This has nothing to do with LGBTQ community.
So you are
it's a general law against the Christian believers.
Alikam, you are expanding the scope of reach of the word on carnal knowledge to even talk about, the things that are accepted today in society as being okay. So that means that you are aware that your activities are on carnal and that they are illegal in the country. Why do you then practice it? Because you seek to rope in other
so this
accepted...
is why we are advocating. Listen very well. If you know and understand that oral sex is carnal knowledge and anal sex is carnal knowledge and therefore criminalized by the Constitution, then it's not homosexuality that is criminalized. Then even heterosexuals should be jailed for having anal sex and oral sex. How many times haven't we even seen that happening? Even if I'm not being mistaken, some of the people who are making the laws practice all these forms of sexual experiences. So why are they talking about gay communities and they are not talking about it as a general understanding of what anal sex or unnatural sex is? That is the question. So if we are not on equal page with the heterosexual, that is where discrimination and hate is coming from.
So then, if indeed you are minded to ensure that the law applies to all, why don't you then support the bill and then ensure that it captures all these other, activities that you reference to be a part of the bill. So those who give oral sex and all are captured in that bill.
Good question. If the members of parliament already have acknowledged that these things were a taboo or sin or crime, they would have already included it, or they would have already made a bill that will be general. So since they have not made a bill that is general, it means that they know that it is not a crime, it's not an offense, and they only want to use it as an offense for the LGBTQ community. So for me, there's no need for even an amendment to this bill that is set up to create division and confusion in a country like this. I wish you would give me the chance to respond to some of the statements by the Christian Council on the program today.
What do you want to respond to? I'd like to know first.
Okay, first of all, we know about beliefs, and that is personal to him, and his belief cannot be imposed on other people. That is one thing I want to mention over there. Secondly, he talked about culture in contradiction to saying that culture is even evolving and that it should be critiqued and challenged. And yet he has failed to understand that we are now challenging those narratives around homosexuality. And when you talk about nature, he's contradicting also that God created man and woman. If we are talking about nature, you cannot be using God again over there. God is faith, and nature is science. So we cannot be putting these things together and be creating confusion. Again, when we are talking about excretion and as anal as an excretion, I think it's a cliche argument. We all know it. We all know that anal is used for that. We all know the pussy is used for urinating. The dick is used for urinating. But at the same time, we enjoy sex with all these organs. So I think, again, we was talking about procreation. And I think that is also discriminatory against barren heterosexual women and men. And this is why a lot of marriages are suffering, because they are not able to procreate. And then they think that they have committed the worst sin and the worst crime in their life. And families are persecuting them for not being able to give birth. So we should be able to really come to understanding and create a system that will be very much embodying and a system that will be all inclusive.
All right.
You
hold on 1 second for me, and let me come back to the studio and speak to Reverend Fayosi. Reverend, so he makes a brilliant point about the law and on carnal knowledge, which he says unnatural carnal knowledge, which he says is an extract from the Bible, from the Christian faith. It suggests that, and I have heard.
No, that is, whether it's an extract from the Bible or not, that is our law, is the constitution.
I understand the point. But he makes the point that I have heard so-called marriage counselors in churches speak about how, oral sex is good, how a man should give a woman oral sex for her to get orgasm, and how a man... But that is not what the mouth is meant for, is it?
Exactly, yeah.
So why don't we hear you preach about that?
So that is the weakness of the law, and he pointed it out. And that is the more reason why we need a more elaborate law.
But why are you not loud?
That is more specific to the issues that we are talking about. Yes, the law as it is criminalizes all of that, all that you have said.
But we don't hear we don't hear the Christian fraternity advocate for people to stop the oral sex and the rest of them, the funny things that people are doing. It's allowed. We don't hear the body of Christ speak against these. We hear them promote it rather.
Most of those things are done in the privacy of our rooms, under the cover of darkness.
But they do it in the privacy of their rooms.
Yes, that is okay. That's their preference.
Yes.
And you can do whatever you like in the privacy of your room, under the cover of darkness. You can do whatever you like. The problem, however, is when there is an insidious attempt to impose that way of doing things.
But you are imposing an illegality as well in the Christian body. And I'm saying, I have MC programs where supposed marriage counselors were encouraging Christians to practice oral sex. And nobody is agitating for these trends to be halted. Is it not double standards then on your side?
No, I don't think so.
Why not?
I think that heterosexual sex is more than just penetration. That's what I think. So what those people are advocating, some of them may be right. That it includes foreplay, playing with each other, and so on and so forth. I think that is the direction in which they are going. And that is not a bad thing. Because in a sexual encounter, there must be pleasure for both parties. And that is, I believe, what most Christian counselors try to promote. But what we believe that this...
Do you support oral sex? You?
That's a difficult question.
But it shouldn't be difficult. It should be very easy.
I will say that I support what the two partners will do to give each other pleasure.
That's a generic response.
Yes.
But do you agree to
I will not go into the pulpit and go and preach about oral sex. I will not go and tell my congregants that they should.
Not on the pulpit, but having a marriage counseling session.
Yes.
Would you encourage oral sex?
No, I will encourage them to do what they have to do to gain pleasure from each other.
So one of the couples tell you, the man says, I enjoy when I have sex with my wife through the back. It is a means that he gets his pleasure. And the wife understands. Is that okay for you?
I'll have difficulties with that.
Why not? Why would you have difficulties with that? When they have agreed that this is what gives us pleasure, and so we should do it. It is not a man to man. It is a man to woman. But the man likes to have the woman from the back.
I have difficulties with that because the back is not designed for sex. And that will be my position.
But you have no problems with a woman allowing for a man to insert the penis in the mouth?
I didn't say that.
But that's oral sex. That's what oral sex is about.
I said if it's okay for them.
Yes, but that is what is going to happen. As members of your church who have a desire to have sex with the man's penis in the woman's mouth. And you say you agree to it when they do that because they have agreed.
I didn't say
it gives them pleasure.
I didn't say I agree to it.
What did you say, sir?
Yes. I said I will not preach about it, and in a counseling situation, I will say whatever they have to do to have pleasure, they should go ahead and do it.
So that one,
but I will not prescribe.
Yes, but that one amount to double standards. Because here is the case, you are saying that if it gives them pleasure, it's okay. Because it's oral. But if it's anal, it's not okay. It's giving them the same pleasure. That's double standards.
Well, you can understand it that way, but that's my position. That would be my position on the matter. But not that I support oral sex, nor anal sex. But in terms of, how would I put it? What's the word? The negativity of it. I don't want to put it in that sense. One is slightly better than the other. That's what I'm trying to say.
All right. Now, Elikan, let me come to you and ask my final question. This bill that we hear, the LGBTQ plus, make a lot of noise about, actually has components in there that seeks to protect your members in terms of abuses they suffer when somebody alleges that this person is gay or that person is not gay or anything. The law seeks to protect your members. Is that not good news for you?
No, that's not a good news. The bill should have rather been a bill that is making a total law that protects the queer community and actually pronounce punishment for anyone who threatens their life. This section that they said that anyone who beats a queer person or whatsoever will go to jail for 3 years will not work. Because in this country, you and I understand that we already have laws that protect the citizens in general against violence. But yet, there jungle justice going on, even when the person is alleged as a thief or as a witch, you know? And how has that changed ever since? So the bill would actually end up legitimizing hate and violence among people who are not well learned, because not everybody, you and I can read the Constitution and interpret it, right? But not everybody on the street that can read the Constitution. So once they are actually pronouncing this on the local station and everywhere, people would be provoked and take the law into their own hands. Even if the law will end up jailing the perpetrators. The thing is that the crime would have already been committed. People would have already died. People would have already died
contradictory?
The police arrest them.
Elikam, is that not rather contradictory? That now, as it stands now, if somebody alleges that somebody is gay, and then some people assault that individual, as much as it may amount to a crime because there's been an assault, it would not be a crime because they assaulted somebody based on the allegation that the person is gay. But the law is saying that if somebody thinks that this person is gay and then assaults that person, the law would sentence that individual. Why would somebody then want to risk to go and assault somebody based on allegation and rather not report the person to the police, but rather assault the individual? I think rather it's a deterrent rather.
No, listen. You are aware of, in this country, people allege women as witches. They know if you beat a woman as an alleged witch, you will go to jail or you'll be arrested. But people still do it, right?
Yes, but these are the frequency and the magnitude of these issues that you are referencing. How wide is it?
It's just because the media report on it less. That is why we are not aware of how
I agree with you.
And large it is.
I disagree with you because you see, I wouldn't talk about the mainstream media, but social media is so sensational that any story which has to do with the abuse of anybody perceived to be LGBTQ plus is in the media space. And so I disagree with you when you say that we don't highlight on them. We do. And so if you're unable to tell me how widespread these cases are, then it means indeed there's protection for your folks.
Yeah. Let me just give a singular example. If you are not from a very privileged position in this country as an alleged person, I'm not talking about just the LGBT community, and something happens to you, it's not a media-worthy news. So it hardly goes very viral on the mainstream media. Captain Mahama, who was lynched in around 2017, right? It became a public news everywhere. But on the same day, there was a woman that was alleged raped and lynched in the northern part of Ghana. I read it only once in the Spectators.
That's incorrect.
I published it several times, but not many media.
That's incorrect. That's incorrect because that particular story you seek to reference, we dealt with that story in the media space for continuous 3 or 4 days. My network was one of those networks.
Yes, that is your network.
I believe even the gender minister then was involved in that matter. Let me land. If I may land.
Okay.
The gender minister then was also interested in that matter. So that matter gained a lot of public traction or media space. So the comparison really doesn't wash.
Okay. Let me just go back to why we are here.
All right. But our time our time is far exhausted. Elegant. I am grateful that you made time to interact with us and engage us this morning. Really grateful that you joined us this morning.
If you can give me a few minutes to say some few things.
Okay, make it a minute. Make it a minute.
Okay. So one thing we have to understand is that Christianity in this country is actually abusing an entitlement.
Christianity is for what?
They are abusing an entitlement because they feel so entitled to do the things that they are doing, but they don't see people who are not sharing the same view and faith with them to do the same thing.
But they are coexisting with Muslims.
When they reference Sodom and Gomorrah, please, when they reference Sodom and Gomorrah, they actually misinterpret the concept or the idea of Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom was not destroyed because of homosexuality. And Reverend is there. Maybe if I'm wrong, you should be able to tell. Sodom was destroyed because of their wickedness, greed, and the way they treat poor people in Sodom. And when we talk about homosexuality in the Bible, those things that were referenced as homosexuality were not homosexuality, they were rape cases. They were rape cases, and you can remember the Benjamite war, that the concubine who was raped. They asked for the men to be brought out for them to rape, and then the men gave their concubine to be raped. The same thing happened in Sodom when they asked for the men to be raped, and Lot wanted to give the daughters out to be raped. So that was a rape culture. It's not homosexuality. It's not a consensual sex. So the destruction of Sodom was not based on homosexuality or LGBTQ identity or consensual sexual relationship. It was based, you can read that in Ezekiel 15:49.
I am grateful that you made time for this exhaustive conversation, but time is not our friend this morning. I'm so grateful for the time you made for us this morning. Reverend, Elikem throws a challenge at you that Sodom and Gomorrah was not destroyed as a result of their gay tendencies, but it was as a result of the wickedness that they perpetuated on the people there. What does the Bible say about that?
There is nothing further from the truth. There are several references, apart from Sodom and Gomorrah, Pauline references, where the Bible specifically says that such relationships are an abomination in society. So I don't know what Elikem is actually saying. He says he's no longer a Christian in the last 6 or 7 years, and he's trying to give an interpretation to scriptures to Christians. He should allow Christians to do that.
But
I don't do that.
What made God so angry to burn Sodom and Gomorrah?
Homosexuality.
Homosexuality.
Yes.
Okay. Reverend,
because men sleeping with men is an abomination unto the Lord.
But you see, until, is it Lot? Went there, right? They existed.
Yeah.
It was Lot and his folks who went there, and then let me sound a bit hypothetical. And God's attention got to them. If Lot had not gone there, they would have been there practicing their homosexuality, and that would have been it. Or?
Well,
because they were doing it before Lot and his folks got there.
Well, you can look at that another way. Is the writers of the scriptures were looking at it from Lot's view, and how God looks at Lot's relationship within society. That's one way to look at it. That's why it may seem like God did not question it. Maybe God has always been questioning it, even when the Hebrew people were not there. It is the encounter of the Hebrew people that led, and in their recording of it, that they recorded God's feelings about it. But God may have been saying no to it all the time through other means.
All right. My final question is, before we end the conversation, is the Christian body is patient to want to woo prostitutes back into the church.
Yes.
The Christian faith is patient to want to woo drunkards back into the church, armed robbers back into the church. But we don't see that when it comes to these LGBT.
We are super patient when it comes to.
Do you do outreaches?
When it comes to reforming.
Are there outreaches?
It's a new thing for us in Ghana now. So the coalition on proper human sexual rights and family values is working on that. They have a whole psychological unit where people are approached. There's an outreach. Go out if you are one of them and you want to get away from it. You want to become straight. They have psychologists, psychiatrists, medical personnel who are going to help you to transform and come back to the straight path. But
can you win this battle, especially with the big superpowers behind these folks? Can you win this battle? Yesterday you saw the U.S. Embassy. Can you win the battle?
That is a very, very good question. That's why I said there is an agenda behind all this, and there's a lot of. The gay lobby is very strong. They are very rich and powerful. The superpowers behind it. It's if we don't do anything, we have already lost. So this is an attempt to win the battle, and I believe that we can win it, at least within our within our society, within our country, Ghana, because most of us, religiously, culturally, and also naturally, don't subscribe to that lifestyle.
I was hoping for an emphatic yes, we'll win the battle because you're a man of faith.
I said that. I said yes, we'll win it.
You said it's an attempt. You will make an attempt.
Okay,
but I was looking for an emphatic statement. There's some hesitancy
well,
in your.
You are right that there are superpowers behind the gay lobby. So it is not going to be easy.
But there's a superpower that overshadows all of them.
Exactly.
So I was expecting,
the
a much
is
more
yes.
emphatic.
Okay. I agree with you. The answer is an emphatic yes. We are going to win it. The battle is the Lord's. With God on our side, we are going to win it. Yeah.
Reverend, I'm grateful that you joined me this morning.
Thank you very much.
Happy morning show.
Yes.
I'm so grateful, sir.
Yes.